to the Ringer NFL show. Sheil Kapadia here with Steven Ruiz, Diante Lee, and Nora Princiotti. We are talking Super Bowl. What day is it? Tuesday? Tuesday of Super Bowl week. Teams had media night. Teams talked to the media again. On Tuesday, the buzz is growing. People are showing up. Brandon Marshall's walking around. Nora, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. I'm having a fabulous time. I didn't know that about Brandon Marshall, but already learning.
Diante, I heard their pod over there. They was getting a little loud. If I'm I want to be the fun, loud pod, so we might have to step it up here.
You know, I think that having Lindell White and Brandon Marshall and some of those other guys over there probably helps the situation a little bit. But no, to the point, it's been good. It's nice to be recording in a place that's not actually a garage.
Yeah.
You know.
Step up. We're trending in the right direction.
1,000%.
I have to say, that was your strongest welcome of the season.
Oh, thank you.
Very strong.
Wow.
Okay. I've been workshopping different ones.
Go.
It's been good. It's been a lot of welcomes this season, so only a few more left. All right, here's what we're doing. We have questions. We have whiteboards. So if you're usually listening to the show, you've been waiting for that motivation to, should I really subscribe to Ringer NFL on YouTube? Do I really want to watch these people? This might be the show for you. You can watch it on your phone, iPad, computer, whatever. You can put it on a TV now, the smart TVs. I sound like an old man. You can put it on TVs now, too. So you can watch this one on our Ringer NFL YouTube channel. We have a series of questions, Super Bowl related. We're going to ask the question. We're going to put the mics down. We're going to write our answers on these monstrous whiteboard. I mean, Nora, how are you feeling?
I feel great.
This thing's, I'm going to be bonking
blank
Ruiz in the
canvas.
head.
Space.
Okay.
Space. We're all artists.
More
here.
room to express yourself.
Okay, more room to express yourself. So we will express our answers on the whiteboard.
Also, Sheil, let's not act like we haven't had some penmanship issues with this format in the past.
Yeah, this is true. Last time I wrote mine very small. I thought maybe we would let bygones be bygones, but I guess not. So we will write on the whiteboards, reveal our answers, and then discuss them. Is everyone ready? Does everyone know the rules?
I was born ready.
Diante, don't make the same mistakes I made. Make sure that font is readable.
My heart is pumping right now
Okay.
because my handwriting is not the greatest.
It looks like you're all going horizontal with the whiteboard, so I guess I'm going to go horizontal with the whiteboard as well, unless I want to be different. First question. Person with the most at stake depending on the result of this Super Bowl. Notice I said person. You can go with it. You can go player, coach, GM, Big Dom, your friend who's a fan, anything.
Stole my answer
Yeah,
already.
whatever you want to do. Any of those. Person with the most at stake depending on the result of the Super Bowl. Get those pens ready. Here we go. All right, Ruiz was the first one done, I believe. It's not a contest, but I do appreciate the efficiency.
Everything's a contest with me.
Yeah, all right, okay, I like that. Everything is a contest. I am ready. Is everybody ready? All right, on the count of three, we reveal. 1, 2, 3. All right, I will read you mine. I have Jalen Hurts. Ruiz, who do you got?
I got Jalen Hurts, too.
Deontay, who do you got?
Jalen Hurts for me as well.
Nora, who do you got?
I've got Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce. All right, well, let's start with that one. Travis Kelce. Why does Travis Kelce have the most at stake for this Super Bowl?
Let me ask you a question about all of your guys' pick. Does Jalen Hurts want to retire? Is Jalen Hurts thinking of nothing at every waking moment other than the life that he could live? If his team just simply wins this football game and allows him to ride off into the sunset, potentially to his life with the most famous woman alive, if only he can just have the storybook ending that will unleash him from this prison of excellence that the Chiefs have built around him. What could possibly be higher stakes than that?
Do you actually think if they win this game, that's it for Travis Kelce?
Almost absolutely.
Wow.
Really?
And if they lose this game, you think he would continue to play?
I
or
think
you're
that's
not
a
sure?
harder question to answer.
Right.
It is admirable how much he is able to preserve his body and try to turn it on in the postseason. But I think we saw it pretty clearly during the regular season this year. His body is just not capable of holding up to an NFL season the way that it used to be. He is not as productive. He is just, the wear and tear is showing. And there are so many things awaiting this man after football.
No kidding.
He's got to want to get out of there.
It does feel like a one last job proposition for him this year. We talked so much last year about them limiting his reps. And this year, they haven't done that at all. So it's almost like, yeah, we got one more year of this guy. Let's just ride him out.
Now, Nora, I did see that you had a tweet. I believe you were baggage claim? You overheard some people talk. Can you share that with the audience? That, a little wrinkle into this whole conversation.
Well, so I'm obviously interested in the Taylor Swift of it all, but I'm also, I'm working on a piece this week about the idea of Chiefs fatigue and the idea that people have just sort of gotten sick of seeing them win all the time or looking for something novel. And so my ears are kind of peeled for, what people are talking about, what people are thinking. And I'm at baggage claim, I'm waiting for my luggage, and I hear a guy and a girl chatting, and it was, the guy says something like, if they win, he's gonna propose on the field. And she's like, he would never do that. That's too corny. And the guy's like, he's the corniest person alive. And the girl's like, no, Taylor would say no. My theory on that is that it would never get to that point because Taylor's Tree Payne, who's her sort of publicist / guiding force behind the scenes in the Taylorverse, would tackle Travis to the ground. And I do believe that she would bring him down, and it would be a by the books within the rules tackle, and she would prevent something out of the.
The rest would still throw a flag. It's the Chiefs.
100%.
But yeah, that was a funny welcome to New Orleans moment for
All
me.
right, since we have you here, the foremost expert on these matters. Let's say they win, he retires. What do the next 5 years? Because you said he has so much waiting for him, which I was like, he's got some things. I was wondering, what, how much. So, play it out. I know you must have thought about this before. So what do the next 5 years look like for Travis Kelce and potentially someone else in his life?
In the next 2 years, they will try every possible TV, movies, hosting.
Yes.
Travis and Jason. Or
Travis and Jason, but also Travis and sort of Team Travis, right? Because he used to, up until a little over a year ago, his management was basically, he had an agent, but he had a couple buddies from college who he was really close with, and they did all of his stuff. And I think those relationships are still good, but a little over a year ago, he professionalized that operation. So there's a lot of people who I think are working pretty hard at I think he's writing a children's book. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I think they'll see all of those things out. Obviously, they've got the podcast, and take a look in a year or two and think, okay, what worked? What could actually be more sustainable? We'll probably see him in a broadcast booth at some point. Ooh. Whether that sticks or not, I don't know. But they're going to throw a bunch of stuff against the wall.
We're going to get a Kelsey Brothers cast in the mold of the Manning cast.
Yeah, we're going to get a Manning cast with the Kelsey Brothers.
The Rotten Tomatoes score for Kelsey's first movie.
29.
That's way too high.
I was going to say, I'm talking in the teens to me.
Don't underestimate the Swifties, guys. Don't underestimate the mobilization
Now, you didn't
power.
mention, so you just told us all the things he may want to pursue, but you did not mention her name during that. Is he just following her and when he wants to, and what's the...
look, she is at a juncture right now where she could actually take a break for the first time in a long time.
Okay. Yeah.
Will she? I don't know. Yeah. I don't think that woman sleeps.
Okay.
So I know she's been in the studio in ways that it really can't be for anything other than new music. The timelines just don't match up. There's a couple re-recordings that still have to come out. There is some sort of documentary, movie, something with the tour that has not been released yet, but they were filming a lot of the later shows. This is something separate from the concert film that went out.
Right.
So she's got a lot of stuff that's probably in the can. So they have some runway where they could just vibe out and be a couple.
Okay.
Which they haven't really gotten to do outside of the context of really, really busy periods in their lives. So I think there will be some of that. But I don't think she's ready to call it quits.
That will be, all right, that segment will be most likely to be aggregated from this
1 million %.
And also segment.
Also most likely for people in the comments to be like, shut up.
No, I don't think. Also most best segment according to Naya and Leela Kapadia.
Well, that's what really matters.
If they listen to any of this, that will be the segment they're listening to. All right, that was great. What amazing.
Jalen Hurts pales in comparison.
Yeah, I know. I got no expertise on anything compared to that. All right, so that was why Travis Kelce has the most at stake. Diante, the three of us went with Jalen Hurts. Why did you choose Jalen Hurts?
Same conversation we just had our buddy Ben Solak over here for Philly Special, right? And we were talking just about where his place in the NFL. So much about this season, the start of this season. You talked about the Tim McManus piece when we were with Ben, just the reporting on, I want to be in an offense that challenges me to work the ball in the middle of the field. I want to have a bigger drop back game, a bigger menu of calls in the drop back game that allow me to process things and go through full progressions in a way that didn't exist under Brian Johnson. And that just that old school of offense that they had before they made the change for Kellen Moore. Regardless of how we evaluate how he executed within this offense, I think so much of the story for him is going to hinge on, were you able to prove that when you needed to change your style as a quarterback and be safe with the football, that you could do it in the middle of the season, which he has done, and then you needed to prove again that you could win playoff games. Obviously, if he has another performance like he did last time they were in the stage and they end up winning the game, that is obviously a huge watershed moment for him in his career. But I think just getting over that hump, I think will say a lot for him. I think that ultimately how he's going to be remembered as a quarterback in Eagles history will be as the winner guy, the leader guy. Yeah. And a lot of that, I think, is going to be contingent upon playoff success and getting a Super Bowl and bringing that back to Philadelphia.
I mean, that's the reason for my answer. He's been the winner guy, and in order to continue to be the winner guy, you have to continue to win. If he doesn't win this game, I think the conversation about him next year, especially if the season plays out like it did this year, I think it gets a little awkward. Right. Because there is a lot of money involved. He hasn't really taken advantage of this passing game that's been built up, and they poured so many resources into it. And they barely even use it. So I think, though, that if they win, he wins a Super Bowl, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
It just doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's the nightmare scenario for him would be not only that they lose, but if it seems that he is the reason why they could not finish the job this year. Where the defense shows up, the run game shows up, there's critical passing situations.
And he takes 5
He's
sacks
holding on to the football.
Like
he takes 5 sacks, 3 throwaways. We're all looking at the film on Monday saying this was open,
Right.
he ate them. If it's that type of game, which there have been those games this year, and the Eagles lose this game, then I think Ruiz is right. Now all of a sudden you're having this conversation that it's a conversation we've had all season. Are they winning because of him, in spite of him? What's his role? How important is he to them winning? If he wins the Super Bowl, it's just you're in that class. Like, people can say what they want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It just because you were good enough to win a Super Bowl. And we can all have conversations about was it because of X, Y, and Z, but you were the quarterback on the team that won the second Super Bowl in franchise history. It doesn't really matter what
you see how this franchise treats Nick Foles.
I was just thinking the same
for
thing.
His Super Bowl
100%,
win.
It's true.
I mean, you would think that he had
He's got a literal statue.
Exactly. Can you imagine for a guy like Jalen Hurts, whose resume would far exceed anything they've gotten from Nick Foles in his time as a starter here? So, I think it would mean a lot for him in Philadelphia and a lot for just the conversation around him. Whereas if you lose, it's entirely possible that we could be here in 2026 and the conversation around Jalen Hurts isn't just, can you win a Super Bowl with them? It's, does Philadelphia need to find a new starter if they're not able to get over this hump? And it may not be fair considering the fact that he's been so successful, but I think that for where this team is and what the expectations are and what's been built around him, it is now on his shoulders, right or wrong, to be able to be the guy that gets his team over the hump.
If the conversation shifts from are we winning in spite of him to are we losing because of him?
Yes.
Especially in that city, because it sounded like fans were kind of getting a little frustrated with him in the middle of the year when the passing game wasn't working. A.J. Brown was frustrated. I don't know if it was about Hurts specifically, but I mean, it's been boiling there under the surface. And I think a game like that, like you said, if he's the reason they lose this game when everything else is in place, the defense, the offensive line, the receivers, the running game, it's all in place. And I think he has the most pressure on him, at least, if it's not the most at stake.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. All right, let's take a break. We come back. We got a bunch of more questions to get to. All right, we are back on the Ringer NFL show. Next question we have for our whiteboards, and this one we need don't rush to start writing stuff down because we need to define this. This is under the radar player who could win MVP. Now, under the radar, obviously, is a subjective term. I almost said objective. Yes, I still get that confused from time to time. Because if you look at the odds here, like Patrick Mahomes is the favorite at plus 110. This, of course, according to FanDuel. Saquon Barkley plus 280. Jalen Hurts plus 350. Travis Kelce's plus 1,800. Everyone else is plus 3,000 or higher. So let's say, for example, A.J. Brown. Now, I think generally speaking, you wouldn't say A.J. Brown's an under-the-radar player, but he is plus 3,300 to win the MVP. So how do we want to define this, which pool of candidates we can choose from? You could tell I'm just a fun guy, just let it rip. Who cares? Don't need to be a stickler for the rules.
Let's exclude Mahomes, Hurts, Kelsey, and Barkley.
Yeah. Yes,
Those four.
That's what I would have said
Yes.
too.
All right, so let me I'm just going to reel off some names for the people watching at home. The next people on the list here, according to FanDuel, are Xavier Worthy, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Marquise Brown, Kareem Hunt, Chris Jones, Jalen Carter, Zach Bond. We can stop there. Those are the next group of MVP candidates. So under the radar player who could potentially win MVP. Whiteboard's ready. Go ahead.
I just realized how important spelling was to this bit and how bad I am at spelling. But
I have one of the worst B's you're ever going to see. I mean, if you're not watching this and you were on the fence when I started the pod, you're going to want to see how terrible this B is. I tried to fix it. Now it looks deranged. All right. Whiteboard's ready. 1, 2, 3. All right. We are showing our answers. I see Nora's got A.J. Brown. Diante, who do you got?
I got Cooper DeJean.
Trent McDuffie.
That's a B?
I told you.
well, let me see.
Listen, it was either going to be use the eraser and go back or just let it rip. I don't know what it looks like.
A lot to unpack with that B.
I never
That's
said
a pregnant B right
I was
there.
going to say, like,
Well,
that B is casting a long
It's
shadow.
very lumpy.
Is there
Yeah.
a third hump?
The B's.
That's a little extra section at the bottom.
The B's been spending time in New Orleans,
There you go,
enjoying themselves.
A little
There's
too much
nothing wrong with
etouffee.
We
Too
don't
many
shame
games.
here. Yeah.
The B has gout.
My B's been having a good time. The B's got gout. All right, let's start. Since Nora and I both have A.J. Brown. Nora, why did you choose A.J. Brown here?
So I'm thinking through the scenarios and the narratives, right? And I do think that it's easier to go Eagles with this than to go Chiefs because I just think that the Chiefs are in a little bit of a zone where it's really hard for me to see a Chiefs win outcome that's not Patrick Mahomes MVP.
Yeah.
I can see a few more Eagles outcomes where maybe, they win, Hurts plays okay, but you don't come away feeling like, oh, the quarterback went and won that game for them.
Yeah.
And if it's not Saquon, because Saquon doesn't count, then, you sort of pick your poison of the talented playmakers that they have on that offense. And so I can see a scenario where if A.J. Brown breaks a couple great plays, maybe a touchdown in there, and you come away feeling like, oh my God, the Eagles won, and they did it because of they're just more talented at the skill positions. They've just got more talent on their offense, and that's the reason they won the Super Bowl. Then I think A.J. Brown makes a lot of sense in that scenario.
Yeah, I had a very similar reasoning. Like if the Eagles win this game, Saquon doesn't go off, Hurts is okay, but the big plays are a slant or a screen to A.J. Brown that went 40 yards, or he just mosses someone. He's double covered downfield. Jalen Hurts says he's down there somewhere, and he comes down with the catch and has 125 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to get the MVP in that situation. I think A.J. Brown would get the MVP. And, Brown, it's been such an interesting season for him. He had the book on the sideline. He had the comment after a Panthers game in December, like not that long ago, in December, where they said they won the game. What's wrong with the offense? And he said passing. He was being honest. The passing game sucked at that time. Since then, he's sort of been like, I think I said on the Ringers Philly special, I'm basically, A.J. Brown and I are on the same wavelength this season. All season, we're like, they're not good enough to win with this passing game. They're not good enough. And now we're like, I don't know. They're in the Super Bowl. What do you want us to do?
Well, and you can see a scenario where if the Chiefs defense, if they make Saquon priority number one, right, then that opens up some avenues for A.J. Brown to potentially have a big game.
And he's usually the guy. When defenses sell out against Barkley, Brown is the guy that gets the ball.
Well, Diante, what do you think? Trent McDuffie we'll get to in a second here, but the Chiefs' coverage plan, when they're playing man, not to say they're going to play man on, they could play it on a high percentage of snaps. I think they might play a little more zone here, but when they have matchups, do you want Trent McDuffie on A.J. Brown? Do you want Is there a double on A.J. Brown and Trent McDuffie on Devontae? I think it's an interesting sort of schematic
I think they borrow
decision.
from what they did last year, where when they put Trent McDuffie on Deebo Samuel because they knew that was a guy that was working in the middle of the field. They wanted a physical guy to be there. I think that you do the same thing with Devontae Smith and Trent McDuffie.
Okay.
He's usually the guy that's running the over routes. He's usually the guy that's presenting himself in the middle of the field, running up the seam, running the corner routes, things that will be like your typical man beater types of plays. You're going to see a lot of that from Devontae Smith within the structure of this offense. And we've seen Devontae Smith, it's not necessarily that he struggles against physicality, but you can see the ways in which he tries to avoid contact at times. One of the things that Trent McDuffie does really well, because of his change of direction skills, because of how fast he is, he can stay attached to guys even when they're trying to slip by and get away from him. I think that if he's there, that matchup makes it really tough on Jalen Hurts, because now you don't have an easy way to access throws in the seam, right? You don't have an easy way to work the intermediate area of the field that forces you to hold the ball longer. And that's where, to the point that we were making earlier, who had the most at stake, that's where you get the mistakes from Hurts, whether it's forcing the ball where it doesn't need to be or holding the ball so long that you're now inviting pressure. I could see them making that move with McDuffie, and now you're playing Jalen Watson or one of their other corners over A.J. Brown with a little bit of help. And I think that ultimately the biggest thing is going to be taking away Devontae Smith with Trent McDuffie and then blitzing the rest of the way and just trying to create as much stress as possible on Jalen Hurts. Because the truth of the matter is that you can't match up body for body against the Eagles skill position group no matter what you want to do.
Ruiz, you had Trent McDuffie down. Why was he your what's the game? What does the game look like where Trent McDuffie wins MVP?
I think one, he has to get a pick,
Yeah.
maybe 2 picks. I think he's going to get an opportunity to get a sack. We know Spags likes to blitz the defensive backs and the cornerbacks specifically. And really, when we've seen these random MVPs in the Super Bowl, it's usually been like the defensive back who comes out of nowhere and gets 2 picks. Like even going back to like the 90s, Larry Brown with the Cowboys, the Bucks. I think it was Dexter Jackson had 2 picks in that game and 1 MVP, and nobody had heard of either of those guys. So I think it's going to be
in
a
that 13-3 Patriots-Rams game. There was a while I was like, the most impactful play was a Corey Littleton interception early in that game. You know, he was in the running to be a Super Bowl MVP if they would have won.
Smith with the Seahawks wasn't a defensive back, but a defensive player who got some turnovers.
I haven't heard the name Corey Littleton in so long. Diante.
Mount Miguel alumni,
there was a
man.
time,
That's
if I
San Diego.
Googled Sheil Kapadia, Corey, like I was writing about this guy, free agency.
He was going to turn the Raiders defense around, remember?
I know, he got a big
That's
contract
right.
there.
That's my guy.
That
Corey?
offseason. All right, so that's the case for Trent McDuffie from Ruiz, and then Diante. Cooper DeJean, interesting pick.
Similar sales pitches as Steven here. I mean, it's obviously going to require forcing turnovers. I will say one thing the Philadelphia's defense has done, and I think that we've noted it in the podcast when we've been reviewing games, it's not necessarily that they've changed their identity. They just weren't forcing as many turnovers early in the season. And you've just seen the turnover rate really spike over the last couple of months. And I think that that's going to be a big piece of, if Philadelphia is going to win this football game, it's stealing an extra possession. You know that this is going to be probably a 10-drive apiece game if both offenses could have their way, where you're really just using up
Max,
a lot of
maybe.
clock.
Who knows?
Exactly.
It could be 8.
And being able to tilt the balance in the offense, in your offense's favor by forcing a turnover, I think that Cooper DeJean is going to be in position to do so, whether it's, contesting an RPO, whether it's taking a guy out of the flat or taking away one of those mesh concepts, making a lot of open field tackles, and he's a blitzer as well, the same that Steven was saying with Trent McDuffie. So that gives him an opportunity to get TFLs, maybe force a fumble, get a strip sack, something to that effect. And I think that it's a kind of a narrow band of outcome no matter what, if we're talking about guys that are not Saquon Barkley, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, the quarterbacks, Travis Kelce. But I think that turnovers can be something that really swings this game because they're going to be limited in terms of possessions.
The Chiefs' offense, I believe, is first in EPA per play on short passes, and the Eagles' defense is fourth at defending them. You can
that's going to be the game.
Yeah, these are the 2 best tackling teams if you go by yak over expectation, and so I feel like you could see a play where they throw a screen, DeJean jumps it, does he force a fumble, is it just a key 4th down stop, whatever it is, and everyone's going nuts out. He's had those plays. It's been fun to watch all season long. All right, Cooper DeJean, Trent McDuffie, and 2 votes for A.J. Brown. All right, third question here. More likely, Saquon Barkley has 150-plus rushing yards or Travis Kelce has 100-plus receiving yards. This is a tough one. I got to think about this one for a second. Saquon, 150-plus rushing yards or Travis Kelce, 100-plus receiving yards. All right, I got mine written down here. Didn't have to draw a B, so that was good. Everybody ready? All right, 1, 2, 3. What do you got? I see Nora has Saquon B. What a cue from Nora, by the way. What did Diante go with?
Saquon going over.
Saquon, Ruiz goes Kelsey. I go Saquon. All right, Ruiz, start with you. Why did you go Kelsey here? 100. I was split. I think there's a strong case for Kelsey.
Yeah, because I think Saquon is going to be the priority against the Chiefs defense. And I think the Chiefs have the tools in Spag's playbook to sell out against the run with numbers. And I don't think they're going to want that type of game model. If Saquon runs for 150, they win the game.
Right.
Point blank. I don't think there's any discussion about that. Whereas I think Kelsey's going to get a lot of opportunities. I think just against that style of defense, they do so much to take away the middle of the field, but I think the Chiefs are going to attack it anyway. And I think this is going to be a big Mahomes mobility game, out of structure game against that pass rush, against that interior pass rush, specifically with Jalen Carter. And Kelsey's usually the guy that gets the ball in those situations.
Yeah. Eagles are zone heavy, obviously, so it's not like, hey, one guy matching up with Travis Kelsey, but Kelsey has been their guy against zone for many years, even this year when he's slowed down a little bit. So I could see him having a big game if they get down a little bit. Last Super Bowl against the Eagles, even the last 2 Super Bowls, Chiefs have been trailing, right, at halftime. So you're throwing the football maybe a little bit more. So, yes, I could see Kelsey certainly having a big game. Diante, why'd you go Saquon over Kelsey here?
I think that it is close, and I think that for both guys, the argument's pretty similar, right? It's just going to be volume. I think that for Saquon and for Philadelphia, I think the moment they get any kind of lead, you're going to really try to see them sit on the football as much as possible. We've seen that Saquon can still be explosive when teams are loading up the box. Obviously, I think a big piece of this game is going to be how Philadelphia handles the run blitz. That's going to tell us a lot about how this game is going to go for Saquon. Obviously, the last year when Kansas City was in this position and they were run blitzing San Francisco, the 49ers didn't have many answers, especially in the second half when Spags really turned up the early down pressures. I'm interested to see whether you see enough RPOs to back them off of it, if they're able to get into some of those designer outside plays. You saw the pin and pull scheme, obviously, that scored on the very first play in the conference championship game against Washington. That's something that they've leaned on, is just getting Barkley out on the perimeter when they think that teams are trying to blitz them. I can see one of those plays going big, and like I said, if they're up in the second half at any point in time, you know what the game plan is going to be. They're going to get in the pistol, they're going to be in the gun, it's going to be a bunch of duo, it's going to be a bunch of inside zone, and they're going to trust Saquon Barkley to bring it home. I think he's going to get a ton of carries as long as this game is within a possession or so, and I think that he'll cross that threshold faster than Kelsey would get to 100 yards. Yeah,
there was like a 20-year stretch where anytime the Eagles lost a game, the dominant conversation on local radio or the post-game show was, look at the box score. They didn't run. Why did they get away from the? That's not a problem with this team. I mean, it is all. They didn't come this far to not give Saquon Barkley the football. He's going to get it in the first quarter, the second quarter. Even the conversation about, well, if it gets out of the a certain game script, I'm always like, if they're down 2 touchdowns like early in the fourth quarter,
they're still running the football.
They're still running the football. It's almost like, unless it's 6 minutes or 4 minutes left or something and they're down 2 scores, there's literally, I don't think, any other scenario where they wouldn't run the football. So, Nora, you went with Saquon too. Why?
Yeah, and I'll reiterate what you guys have said, which is that this is a really good question because I agree it's really close. I agree with Steven's point that, in general, the Saquon over 150 yards, there are a bunch of scenarios in which that's actually a bad game script for the Eagles. That, to me, is the version where it's at 5 yards a pop, right? Once one of those rushes is 72 yards, then we're just in a completely different situation. And I do think that he's shown enough of an ability to still be able to get those explosives even when opposing defenses are selling out to stop him, that I would rather, just given where they both are in their careers, I would rather bank on Saquon being able to just really break one, and then other than that, have a pretty normal Saquon game, rather than Travis, who, this is the time of year when he turns it on, but it's increasingly, you feel like he's really scraping the bottom of the barrel to get it done.
14 targets for 80 yards.
Exactly.
I do think this game is going to be about making Jalen Hurts the ball carrier when they do those option plays and he has a choice to give it to Saquon or keep the ball. I think Spags is going to sell out to keep it in Jalen Hurts' hand. That was the plan in the last Super Bowl when we saw this matchup. And the Eagles did run the ball well, but if you look at those carries and who had them, It wasn't the running backs that were running the ball well. It was the quarterback who was running the
70
ball.
yards, rushing. 70 yards rushing in that game. Last year they played each other, and it was 29 yards. So Saquon's the first guy I remember the broadcast, and we've had this conversation I think before, talking about like the dangers of loading the box against Saquon Barkley, because he breaks through the first line of scrimmage, and like you just see these safeties.
We've got no shot.
You got no shot. It almost is like, do you want to live that way with that risk where you might get some TFLs and 1 yard runs, but you risk a longer run, or do you just kind of play levels to your defense, stack the linebackers, play 2 safeties deep, and you might give up 6, 8, 12, but maybe you're not giving up. I've literally never heard that conversation on a broadcast about a running back. Me neither. Yeah, it's crazy.
But I think the Chiefs will find a way to stay in too high and blitz the run.
Yep.
We've seen them do that against Philadelphia in the past. I think last year they did it in the Monday night game. So I think there's ways to kind of guard against both.
Yeah. Spags, man. This is like
this is his Super Bowl again for
both
second straight
defensive
year.
coordinators, really. Yeah, I mean, I have like a strong suspicion that when we're on the mics on Sunday night, in the first 10 minutes, we're either talking Spags or Vic Fangio, most likely, for whichever team won this game.
The reason the Fangio tree kind of exploded a couple of years ago was in reaction to Patrick Mahomes and stopping him and stopping explosive passes. So, I think both of these teams are kind of set up perfectly to attack the other one and what they do on offense.
Yeah, I love it. All right, let's take a break. We come back. We have 2 more questions to get to. All right, we are back on the Ringer NFL show. Ruiz, this was your special. I like this one. Most likely Chiefs refereeing controversy, player and penalty. Now, before I want
to say something. I don't actually believe there's some conspiracy
give the disclaimer,
against the Chiefs, but we're just playing into the bit.
In the zeitgeist, when people
right.
are just going nuts about whatever they want to go nuts about and trying to get their little clips going viral and all that. Ruiz is saying this will be the play that they're trying to bring to your attention. All right, most likely Chiefs refereeing controversy, player and penalty. I mean, this is a harder one. It's a longer one. You're not just running Saquon. So, I didn't anticipate it was going to take that much time. It did. The spacing in between my words is a little weird here. A lot of stuff going on.
We get paid to write. This is why we
get paid to type. All right, let's show 1, 2, 3. All right. There we go. I see Nora has Mahomes flop. Diante, what do you have?
I have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson with a late hit on Xavier Worthy.
That was on my list. Was
vivid.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Ruiz, what do you have?
I have a forward lateral by Travis Kelce.
Oh, that's good.
That's a good
really
one.
good.
Jalen Carter body weight on Mahomes.
Ooh.
All right. Nora, start us off. Mahomes,
well, I feel like yours
flop.
and mine could kind of combine, right?
Okay.
Because this is not, obviously, I was asked to write down the penalty, and I didn't actually write down the penalty. But I think the most likely is the scenario in which the conversation is a defensive penalty against Patrick Mahomes, and we're talking about whether or not Mahomes milked it a little bit and whether or not it was fair to the defender.
Sideline one? Or in the pocket?
I like the sideline. I see it on the sideline. I mean, maybe that's just because that was the last time that we saw it and it caused controversy. But that's what's in my mind's eye. I was skiing last weekend and I was in the lift line and there was a little kid who's like, you're decked out in all this gear, and if you're a small child, you're a little wobbly. Kid's wearing a Mahomes jersey over his ski jacket, and he just falls over, and some other guy in the line, like, totally out of nowhere, just goes flop, and everybody starts laughing. It was really funny.
Get that guy on the pod. That guy's funny.
It was well done. It really got a chuckle out of me.
No doubt about it. All right, I had like Jalen Carter, either a sack or a QB hit on Mahomes. Key play. I'm talking third or fourth down,
3rd and 8.
Fourth quarter, and you're showing the replay, and you're like, wait. Did Jalen Carter move his body to the side? That shouldn't have been a body weight. Like, he has one hand down. People are like slowing it down, circling the hand when it hits the ground. His weight's on his wrist. His weight isn't on Mahomes. The refs call it anyway. And, Eagles fans forget things very easily. So it only gets brought up for like a couple hours after the game.
Can I ask you, before we move on, Sheil, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How do you feel, and how do Eagles fans feel about being like the good guys? About being like the team that is once again tasked with bringing down a dynasty that people are growing increasingly resentful of?
I don't think Eagles fans like that. I think they would probably be like, we would rather be the hated. And I think they'll probably find a way to make this a little more balanced.
It's like so funny because I think the Chiefs fans are really uncomfortable with the idea that they're villains. Like
Yes,
they don't know what to do with it.
it's
They're
a
like,
role
we're from the
reversal.
Midwest.
It
And
is
then we
true.
have the warm and fuzzy Philadelphia
Yeah.
Eagles. I really love it.
No, the whole thing is no one likes us, we don't care. That's literally like
Right.
that's on T-shirts when you go to like school events. There's little kids.
Who doesn't like them?
Yeah. Well, this was the
School
who doesn't like them? What do you mean, Eagles fans? No, but who likes them?
No,
I
Who
meant the
like-
Eagles. I thought it
No,
was the
this is
Eagles
about
rallying
the
cry.
this is about the fan,
Okay.
because the team's going to come and go. You can say, they're doing everything the right way, and that is probably true. You're right. Now they're like the belle of the ball. Oh my
Yeah.
God, too. But that's not the fan base, and like down the line, other stuff will happen there. All right, Diante. Yours, the first name that popped into my head was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Of course, the infamous game this season when Fox came back from commercial and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was being escorted to the
Losing
locker
his
room
mind
by Dom DeSandro.
in the middle of a
and we
TV
didn't see why it
timeout.
was. Yeah.
Like,
You went full name with Dom?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Never heard anyone say that. Very uncomfortable.
Dominic DeSandro. Philadelphia,
Jeffrey Lurie,
Pennsylvania.
I think, called him. I asked him a question yesterday about that. And I think he said Dominic. And he's like, Dom. So maybe he got in my head there. All right,
Oh, that's
Diante.
funny.
no, I've already just going about like the emotional constitution of the players, the ones who's most likely to lose it is probably Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Like I'm thinking about the Super Bowl from a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember this in that fourth down drive while the Chiefs are trying to put it away, or maybe it's the drive before. He is like flying down the field. There were multiple helmet-to-helmet hits that would cost you several games and game checks.
He was one of the only defensive players who
1,000%.
showed out in that game. Yeah.
1,000%. And I can just see the drag route to Xavier Worthy. He's tiptoeing down the sideline. He gives his body up. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is frustrated because they're moving the chains, and now you get an extra 15 tacked onto it, and you're giving up a score. That to me just feels like the most likely scenario outside of a rough in the
Okay,
pass.
I wanted you to explain why Xavier Worthy in particular, and that you did.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and you know it would come on, like the pass would not be remotely catchable.
1,000%. And now you're going to get Xavier Worthy at 170 pounds, limbs flying everywhere, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson screaming at the ref for the flag. We're going to get the whole thing.
Ruiz, I had to be honest, when you read yours, I was like, if I could change mine, that just feels so on the nose, the Travis Kelce
I came up with the
forward lateral.
answer before
The
I came up with
question.
the prompt.
Okay,
Yeah, so
I
it was
like
one
it.
of those situations. So I kind of cheated, but no, I could totally see it happening. Like you said, we're slowing down the replay.
Yeah.
I remember the Titans Bills, the Music City Miracle.
Music
That's
City
still
Miracle,
like 25 years later. We're still don't know whether it's forward or backwards. And we know Travis Kelce loves a pitch.
Yeah.
Nobody loves a pitch like Travis Kelce.
Can I be honest? Every time they show a replay of one of those, I never know. Like they're explaining it, I'm like, that looks
No.
backwards to me. And they're like, no, someone's slowing it down. Look at the yard line where he let go. And I'm like, no, sorry, still looks backwards.
Still looks backwards.
So I can never tell. So I will not be the one complaining about that. But yeah, that is on the nose. I love that one. All right, last one to get to. More likely, Jalen Hurts has more passing yards than Patrick Mahomes, or Kareem Hunt has more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley. So Jalen Hurts, more passing yards than Patrick Mahomes, or Kareem Hunt, more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley. What do you got?
Likely. Oof.
That's a tough one.
I'm ready. Can I admit, sometimes when I write an S, sometimes I start at the top and sometimes I start on the bottom. Is that serial killer behavior? Should I be more? And like S is literally.
I've never heard of starting from the bottom.
Yeah, no. Sometimes I'll start at the bottom and work my way up. That's serial killer.
I got to get on mic to say 100% serial killer. Serial killer with an S that you started from the bottom.
Yeah, and it's also like the first letter of my name, so it's probably the letter I write the most.
You would be writing the most, yeah.
Never
I've
said
never thought of
never
that.
said I was a normal person. Let that be on the record. All right, 1, 2, 3.
My
Nora,
bad.
what do you got? I can't see anything. Diante and Ruiz almost hit each other in the head with the. All right, Nora has Hurts.
Yep.
Diante.
Hurts over Mahomes.
Ruiz has Kareem Hunt, and I have Hurts, Ruiz, give us the scenario. Kareem Hunt, more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley.
I mean, I don't feel confident in this one either way. I think it's just going to be, it's more me not picking the Hurts over Mahomes one because I think it's just going to be a pass-heavy game for the Chiefs. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball all that well until the Eagles have to adjust their defense to stop the passing game. And I think if the Chiefs get up, I think they'll get a lot. He'll get a lot of carries in the fourth quarter. But I don't feel confident either way. And either of these things happen.
The Chiefs, we talked so much about their explosive plays this season, and part of it is passing. But if you look at the, their rate at producing explosive plays on the ground, it's like 31st or something in the NFL. Even when they're running it well, they haven't been able to break off those big runs there. All right, Diante, why did you choose Hurts? What's the scenario where Hurts outpasses Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, part of it is just that I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to have enough volume of carries to get over Saquon Barkley's rushing number. We talked a little bit about that earlier in the show. And then the other piece of it is I think if they're going to find success in the passing game, a lot of it is going to be taking that vertical shot early in the game to an A.J. Brown or a Dallas Goedert on one of those slide routes or screens, makes a guy miss and gets 30 yards after the catch. And that's usually how this offense operates best in the passing game anyways. We saw when they played in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, a lot of that was just kind of getting the ball out and guys creating or just laying the ball out in the air and guys coming down with it for Jalen Hurts. I could see that going similarly in this game, and I don't think it would be – I think the more passes you see, the higher the volume of passes for both guys, the less likely it is that Hurts would beat him. I just can see big vertical shots for them and maybe Patrick Mahomes being forced to dump the ball off so often early in the game that just by volume and the fact that offense isn't very explosive that he might be outgained.
Nora, same thing, same thinking?
It's the chunk plays. It's the chunk play ability. I think if the question were who's going to have a more consistent game passing the football, I feel very
success rate, that would have been a real nerdy one that I'm surprised I didn't come up with.
I would
Who
not
will
have
have the higher success
the higher CPOE. I would not have participated in such.
Let's revisit the rules and who's eligible too. Sorry, Sheil.
It's okay. I like it. All right. Same thing. I mean, when Jalen Hurts plays well, he is chucking the ball downfield and giving those guys chances. And you can put Trent McDuffie on one guy. The other guy's going to have Jalen Watson or Chamari Conor on him. And that is advantage Eagles in that matchup. And so you do want to find that matchup. You mentioned it, the yards after the catch with guys like Dallas Goedert. Like, he has a chance to throw for a lot of yards in this game without a lot of volume. I think that would be a great outcome for the Eagles if that's the case, obviously, and he still doesn't turn the football over. So that's why I've got that. I'm with, you guys. I think the Chiefs, I'm really curious to see how many carries those backs get. I just feel like they're going to be like, we're not going to be able to run the football
unless it's a short yardage situation.
Yeah.
I can't see them running the ball.
I think it's going to be pass first down, second down, get in good. They don't even have to get in good third downs. I had a stat in my piece on the Ringer this week that 3rd and 6+, Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL. So like all those things defensive coaches talk about, get him in 3rd and long, just pressure him. They do not apply to Patrick Mahomes. He's still got the production in those situations. So that's something else to keep an eye on here. All right. How do we feel? Good?
I feel like I aced it. I got everything right. Yeah.
All right, you got everything. Maybe will we revisit these? We'll see. If I did well, we'll revisit them. Not. If not, we will not. We will be back on Thursday with the big preview, right? Yeah, Thursday with the big preview show. We'll have our predictions in that one, and then we'll be back Sunday after
the game,
Super Bowl. LIX, Super Bowl LIX. Are we doing the number? What are we doing?
I'm not saying.
You're not
LIX.
saying LIX. Okay.
Definitely not LIX.
Listen. All right. Let's close on that note. Thank you to Nora Princiotti, Diante Lee, and Stephen Ruiz. Thank you to Christopher Sutton for producing. Thank you to the whole video team for putting this on YouTube. Ringer NFL. I'm Sheil Kapadia. We'll talk to you next time on the Ringer NFL Show.